This is the Tigers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Detroit Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What? Raise your hand if you hate Cleveland. The Cleveland Guardians beat the Detroit Tigers for the third straight time, 7-5 the final in this one. Took extra innings. Welcome into a live Locked On Tigers postcast. I am your host, Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. And man, ready for some better news than what we've seen. When your team's good, you hate losing streaks. It's a 3-game losing streak for the Detroit Tigers, and we are here to break it down. We'll talk about Cleveland's bullpen and the 3-game funk that this Tiger team is in and how they can bounce back tomorrow in the finale of the series. I'll also have my talking point, our turning point, and of course, our player of the game. That's all coming up next on a live Locked On Tigers postcast. And as always, we thank you for making this your post-game destination, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. As always, your comments are welcome. So go ahead and fire up that comment section, because you guys are going to have to help me through this show, because man, I'm upset. And I didn't expect to be here as a Tigers fan. I didn't expect to be here in this series. So we'll work through it together, and I'll appreciate your collaboration as always. So buckle up. Here we go. Come one, come all. You know the drill. It's the Locked On Tigers postcast. We begin with, as always, the talking point. What is the biggest story following this contest? It's the third straight loss for the Tigers. Final score 7-5. Cleveland explodes for 4 runs in the 10th. And I think we got to make that our talking point.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Cleveland found a way to steal this game. And I know for a lot of people, depending on how you watched it, I watched the Fox broadcast with Jason Benetti doing the play-by-play, Tom Verducci doing the color analyst. I'll get into that a little bit later. I don't necessarily love Tom on the call, and in fact, he kind of bores me to death. But they talked about the style of play from this Guardians team of just hang around, and then find a way to go steal a game. And I think tonight, I should say, personified that in perfect form, because this is a team that fell behind early. We're talking about the Guardians, of course, 3 runs for the Tigers in the home half of the first, and then they just withstood that the rest of the way, and they chip away with it with 2 in the third, which, by the way, Casey Mize was really good, and we'll get in that in a second here. Very good to see him back on the bump for the Tigers. But the 8th inning run for the Cleveland Guardians, you got to talk about that as a play that if the Tigers execute that play better, the runner is tagged out. And the ground ball to first, I know Torque goes home with it, but putting that throw on the money is the difference between preventing the tying run to score and the Tigers being up by 1 and that runner being tagged out at home. And so the Ramirez charging home, you got to find a way to put that throw on the money, and it's a bang play, absolutely. And the runner was off on contact, and they get paid a salary as well. They're professional baseball players, but in that moment, I just felt like the Tigers could have made that play to tag Ramirez out at home, and then you're still talking about a 3-2 game. Will Vest comes in and closes out, and it just didn't work out that way. And so they get the run to tie it at 3. And then in the 10th, it was the Manzardo double. It was another double, Martinez with the double, Naylor, the sacrifice fly. And it just kind of started to snowball on this Detroit Tigers team in extra innings. And even though they showed a little bit of fight there in the home half of the 10th with the Gleyber Torres double scoring Andy Ibanez and Javi Baez, it was obviously too little too late when you give up a 4 spot in the extra innings spot of the 10th inning. So just a disappointing night all the way around. And I know we got a ton of comments building up, and I want to get to those in a second. But my biggest turning point, talking point, whatever you want to phrase it as, just disappointment, because this Tigers team is too good to lose 3 in a row to a Cleveland Guardians team. And I know there's a lot of baseball left. You're going to face the Guardians plenty more times, and that includes tomorrow. But felt like you wanted to really get this one for the Detroit Tigers. All right. to our comments. And as always, appreciate you getting in that comment section. Rufus T. Cat says, man, when I look at the schedule and see how many times we have to play this team, I want to go outside and eat worms. Well, don't go outside and eat worms. We don't need that. Kevin 81 says, what a sad game. Yeah, sad. We're down a little bit right now. It's okay to acknowledge that. I mean, this show is nothing if we're not honest, right? Demetrius McNeil is up next. Jake, the turning point for this series has to be the bases loaded, no outs, and they score. It's on the shoulders of Tarek Skubal tomorrow morning. Start hitting or get swept, their choice. Yeah, we're going to talk about Tarek Skubal being on the bump and what that means for this Tigers team and how they have to have a hand the ball to your ace type of game and say, go win us a ball game. You can't get swept by this Cleveland Guardians team in a 4-game setting. There's no doubt about that. William Steffi is up next. They lost this one early. The early base running error and leaving the bases loaded in the third cost them huge. I agree. I mean, there was an instance of leaving the bases loaded yesterday that cost the Tigers, leaving the bases loaded today. And it's just multiple times you're seeing this team not hit in the clutch, and that can be a little bit concerning. They've got to be better. They've got to improve in that aspect. And, I can scream until I'm blue in the face about being better when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position. But at the end of the day, there has to be some ownership on it. And, I do think I'm going to take this twofold. There's an element of the awareness of what these 3 games meant, losing to the Cleveland Guardians and it being a rivalry game, a rivalry series. You're playing really good baseball, and to just lay an egg like this versus overreacting to how good this team has been for the better portion of the entire season and saying, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's not get too carried away with our reaction to a third straight loss to the Cleveland Guardians, I should say. Okay, a couple other ones. John Meadows says, clearly, Cleveland is still the class of this division. Well, fortunately there, John, we've got an entire baseball season left to determine that. It's May 24th, and if you're ready to crown the Guardians, then that is your choice. I for one, would like to play the rest of the season out to see what happens. Thomas Rotani says, AJ putting bum Colt Keith in the 3-hole is ridiculous. Now, that same bum had an RBI double today, so let's pump the brakes a little bit there. But, I hate the notion that Colt Keith has to be better. I don't think he's a bum, but yes, he does need to play at a higher level than what he's shown as of late. Matt M., all of the bobbles and walks gave them extra runs. I agree that, the Tigers just weren't sharp tonight. They haven't been sharp all series. And I understand Thursday after a long road trip and, the travel day and everything. Okay, you come out flat, the weather's bad. Sure, chalk that up for that. But last night and then again tonight, it's just you need more of a championship level effort from a team you expect to win the American League Central. That's just the way it is. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no putting it lightly. It's just the way it is. And I think anybody that follows this team would agree with me in that aspect. But a lot of comments coming in, and I appreciate the comments. We've gotten to quite a few of them, a couple more here before we hit our first break. Gary Myers, good friend of the program, says AJ's decision making sometimes is a head scratcher, like yesterday's lineup. Yeah, I've made this notion on this program a couple of times that I know AJ Hinch is not a guy that wants to be questioned, and he's got a very distinct way of managing this ball club. And, it always comes with a strategic mindset, of course, but at the same time, he is doing what he feels gives this Tigers team the best chance to win. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We got our player of the game to get to. We got our turning point segment and so much more. Don't go anywhere. It's Locked On Tigers, and it's the postcast right here on Locked On Tigers. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Tigers postcast is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook is FanDuel. And guess what? The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments, whether it's game-winning shots or, you know what? How about a breakout player? There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And you know what? Here's where you decide what happens next. If you've got a read on who's heating up, well, get in on it. Why not back it up with the same game parlay? Or how about this? When it looks like you could combine live pride bets with mid-game based statistics on how the action unfolds, you can get on that as well at FanDuel. So head to FanDuel.com, and if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. You sign up at FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Tigers lose to the Guardians, third straight loss, 7-5 the final in this one. And I know we talked a little bit about how it all played out, but 3 runs for the Tigers in the home half of the first. And then it was like 20-something Tigers retired in a row, something ridiculous like that. 2 more in the bottom half of the 10th. But somebody said in the comments that, the huge run, the 4-run lead that the Guardians had built up, nobody was coming back from that, especially with Clase on the mound, who I've been critical of at times. But I mean, you give him a 4-run lead, and the Guardians are going to win that game. I think we can all agree with that. Other statistical notes that are worth pointing out: you got Gleyber Torres that drew 3 walks, 2 runs batted in for him. Colt Keith had an RBI as well, but need more production from this team as a whole. Tomorrow will be Tarek Skubal, which again, hand him the baseball and say, go win a baseball game for us. We need it. Tarek Skubal on the bump tomorrow for the Detroit Tigers in the 4th game of the series, and of course it being the finale. Now, our turning point where this game turned on its head.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
There are some instances there where you could point to early where this game turned, and because it was early, I'm not gonna sit here and say that's why the Tigers lost this game. I mean, the third inning is a good example for the Tigers. You load up the bases with the Torres single, you get Colt Keith lining out, Riley Green walks, and then McKinstry walking and Vierling unable to get it done, which, by the way, great to see Matt Vierling back in the lineup, the 2-run single for him in the first, but not cashing in. The third was a turning point. And then again, that 8th inning, I keep going back to that, where the Guardians scratch across a run with Tommy Kahnle on the mound, with Ramirez with the single to center. He's always been a Tiger killer. We all know that. And then back-to-back singles, sending him to third, and Martinez being able to score on that fielder's choice to first really turned this game upside down. Not even upside down, but allowed the Guardians to tie this game. And then, of course, the real turning point, the 4-run spot in the 10th, is where this game turned. And unfortunately, the Tigers lose it. Let's get to our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Wish I had better news with this, because, with all the makings of the guys returning, whether it be Casey Mize back on the bump, you got Matt Vierling back in there. You're waiting for that big breakout moment for the Detroit Tigers to have a turning point and a player of the game, and just unfortunately wasn't meant to be tonight. So I think that the Guardians bullpen deserves the most credit for tonight's game, and I don't want to give it to any one player, but they hold this Tigers team pretty much silent until that 2-run 10th inning off Emmanuel Clase. But the damage had already been done with the 4-run cushion, so it didn't matter. So got to give this one to the Guardians bullpen, and I hate to give the Guardians credit for anything, because like we said, it's the Cleveland Guardians. But that being said, they get the win. They've won 3 in a row. Time for a couple more comments, and I appreciate everybody making their comments heard on the Locked On Tigers postcast. And depending on where we decide to go, why not go with Gary Myers? AJ decision making sometimes is a head scratcher. Like, yes, I think I already read that one. My apologies. David Gustafson saying, please, for the love of God, fix the bottom of the order. The bottom of the order produced in that final game against the St. Louis Cardinals. But man, I unfortunately have to agree with you there. DT Lion says this series brings up the same old Tigers, which I wanted to be clear about, pumping the brakes a little bit, that this is not the same old Tigers. It's a 3-game rut, and this team will be just fine. It's still an elite level baseball team. It's still a first place level team. It's still a team with one of the best records in all of baseball and a lead in the division. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. All right. Tigers need to win tomorrow. They got Tarek Skubal on the mound. And for the Cleveland Guardians, they've got Logan Allen going. First pitch. It's an early game. Make sure you're ready to go for the early game because it's that Roku game, right? Games on Roku. This series has been all over the place. You had the Fox broadcast, and I know I was going back and forth with people on Twitter about that. And now you've got the Roku game early in the morning. So it's an 11:35 first pitch on Roku. Tarek Skubal, the lefty's 4-2 with 2.87 ERA, 79 strikeouts. Logan Allen, the lefty for the Guardians, he's 2-2 with a 3.86 ERA. Thanks as always for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the live Locked On Tigers postcast. It's a pleasure to be on the air with you. And thanks so much. Make sure you like and subscribe the video, and we'll talk to you on Sunday. Hopefully the Tigers can salvage a game. Have a great night.